Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome home. Filmed on a PlayStation 5 using Share Factory. Who cares? Using PlayStation 3D headphones, so if the audio sounds like we're gonna blame Sony. Not even a minute in and you're making excuses for the trash that is your video. I promise to give your attention back at the end without a scratch on it. Yeah, right, their attention's gonna be full of gashes, they're gonna be covered in blood, and they're gonna blame you. You may disagree with many things I bring up. You may agree, or never heard of, or heard of. Shut up! Get to the point! I'll begin with the Gnostic Primordial Creation Story. So, let us begin this journey together, and thank you for listening. This story begins with a supreme consciousness in a void that becomes self-aware. It doesn't understand itself, so it fragments to experience itself to better understand and becomes everything. It becomes land, water, all life, all personalities with all their experiences. And so much of it, it would lose itself and go insane. It became schizophrenic. And right as it's losing its mind, it created the aeons. And one of these aeons was wisdom, a being of knowledge and information. Sophia. She's associated with Eve, Mary, Mother of God, and Marika. And all this thoughts and information, so much, these negative thoughts, these dark emotions, these fears, these desires, this purgation of catharsis turns into a pregnancy, and she miscarries. And this abortion becomes alive, and it steals her powers to survive. It steals these powers of the Pleroma. And this being is known as the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth, Samael, Yahweh, Seklas, and the Greater Will. And it becomes conscious. It knows there's more than just information. There's power, there's force, there's energy. And it's impregnated by its own madness. And it creates the material universe and its archons, the outer gods. And real quick with these archons, there's 12 of them, like there's 12 zodiac. And eventually 5 of them would go against the Demiurge. So that's like 5 outer gods going against the greater will. So anytime you see any of the children of Marika becoming influenced from outer gods, like Mikola, Melania, and Morgoth and Moog, imagine it's probably these outer gods that are going against the greater will, just like these 5 archons go against the Demiurge. But there's also 7 bad archons, and they're associated with orchestrating the material world into like this prison. So, and imprisoning your mind with your thoughts and how you think and how you view the world, so you don't understand about the spiritual realm as it goes up in the layers, so you know that you're the supreme consciousness. So there's outer gods that are good and bad, and there's just like there's good and bad archons. All right, let me get back to it. So once it's created this material world, Sophia would go down into the material hologram to try to fix the world, and she has to follow the rules that are given by the Demiurge so she can defeat her son, so this monad supreme consciousness can become sane again. And just like in game, the one great fractures,
into births and souls and the greater will. And this greater will creates the material world. And when it did, it created torment, despair, affliction, every sin, every curse. Just like in game when Hyada told us. And when she said, what was borrowed must be returned, melted all the way with the yellow chaos flame until all is one again. You know? Because, well, here's a side note.
As a side note, the Flame of Frenzy is an egregore, an autonomous psychic entity created by a collective group mind. Story goes, Shibiri is punished for the crime of slander against the greater will. His eyes are gouged out and he lies, and drags the nomadic merchants of the great caravan down with him. They are falsely accused of heretical beliefs and are buried alive under the cathedral of the Forsaken. Abandoned, helpless, and full of sorrow, and no one coming to help, they chanted a curse of despair and brought the Flame of Frenzy into existence. This psychic conduit back and forth of energy, information, and consciousness, it grew as it fed. Its entire sentience was born of despair, and the merchants wanting to end the despair, so too the Flame of Frenzy would want to end the despair by destroying the entire world and everything in it.
Now that the side note's over, I can get back to the story where Christopher Walken and Woody Allen had a baby. Just kidding. Ha ha ha. The greater will creates the world, and it creates the Earth Tree. It's a conduit between the material world and the spiritual plane where it resides. I recorded this next part doing that, and it sounds funny, but it's after listening to it so many times, it's just so annoying. I had to cut it out, but it was a bunch of that. Anyways, back to it. So, the greater will creates the world, and when it did, it created the Earth Tree. And like I just said, it was a conduit between the material world and the spiritual plane where it resides. And it's definitely 100% symbolic to the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, the connection between heaven and earth, the world axis, the world tree, axis mundi, Yggdrasil, the cosmic axis, and the world pillar. It's in the center of the world. It's the land of 1,000 names. Mount Meru, Agartha, Paradisia, Hyperborea, Avalon, Shambhala, the Garden of Eden, and the capital of Lindell. Now that we got reality in place, we can start with the actual story of Marika. Remember, she's the archetype of Sophia, Mary, Mother of God, and Eve, a Numen woman from outside the lands between. She's the first Empyrean, someone capable of housing the Elden Ring to rule and spread the influence of the greater will over the material world. Her first consort in Elden Lore would be Placidusex. Brake noises and alarm bells going off. Listen, check it out, yo. Fortisax's sister Landsax took the form of a human to commune with the knights of the ancient dragon cult. Placidusex would also take the form of a human, and this union would impregnate Marika to give birth to the first demigod, Godwyn the Golden. But Godfrey's Godwyn's father. I didn't see that anywhere, and a lot of lore videos just go along with it. It doesn't make sense to me because each little pack of children always has the first letter, and G doesn't go with MM. But hear me out. When you go to the deep root depths and you see Godwyn the Golden, he's huge. And he's got a big ass fish tail. And the reason he's got a fish tail is because his father's a dragon. Because the story is a carp jumps over the dragon gate and becomes a dragon. So he looks like a mermaid. He's half human, half fish, because he's not fully developed into a dragon. Just like fish, these carps turn into dragons. That's why he looks like a fish. It's the only thing that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that Moog and Morgott would be the way they are, and then Godwin's just clean slate. First try. Da 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 da. No, Placiducex is his father, and Godwin has a fish tail because fish, the carp, turns into a dragon. I'm telling you, that's why. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if, but if anybody said this before, good. But I've never heard anybody say that. But, you know, anyways. So Godwin the Golden is not Empyrean. An Empyrean being someone that houses the Elden Ring, and this greater will always seems to need to have an heir that's Empyrean to house the Elden Ring as a fallback plan in case something happens to Marika. It's always planning ahead. It puts things in motion. It has a lot of influence over this realm. And because Placiducex was incapable of producing an Empyrean heir, the Greater Will would have him challenged. Maybe it didn't say, go beat him up, but allow the circumstances to happen. And he would be bested by Horalu, and Placiducex's Age of the Beast would come to an end. And this Horalu guy becomes Godfrey, who would become the new Elden Lord and consort to Marika, and their union would bring about the twins Mohg and Morgott, who were not Empyrean, and to make matters worse, they were Omen, curse-born by the outer god, the Formless Mother, the Blood Star, maybe one of these somewhat good Archon outer god types, and their bodies resembled remnants of this previous age, and it repudiated the greater will. So that would force Marika to abandon them in the sewers of Lindale as a choice because most Omen have their horns cut off, and a lot of the babies died, but they're royalty, so they just threw them in the sewer. You know, sorry about your luck. It's terrible, but after time, there's wars and wars and wars. I don't want to focus too much on that, but they're warring with the fire giants at the mountaintops of Flame Peak, and they defeat them. So this flame of ruin is no longer a threat to the Earth Tree, and this flame of ruin can burn the Earth Tree, and that's no good for the Greater Will. It will lose control of everything. So once Godfrey's outlived his usefulness, no Empyrean heir, beat the wars that are going on, the Greater Will would have Marika remove his grace and exile him out of the lands between. And he would take his tarnished and his kinfolk, and they would just bounce. Insert the Baphomet rant. The Baphomet hermaphroditic being represents the balance of two becoming one. Sun, moon, money. Adam, Eve, odd, even, Atum, Isis, and the letters come together to make the money symbol because ATM gives you money. And the balance of the two coming together in perfection and unity. The balance of heaven, earth, God, Gaia, male, female, electricity, magnetism, together becoming an electromagnetic unity. What does the Baphomet mean exactly? I'll try to translate it as best as I can. As above, so below, as within, as without. In and up, the thumb is in, the fingers are up, to go within and find answers to be enlightened. Down and out, the thumb is out, the fingers are down, looking for answers outside yourself will lead you astray. Pointing at the heart, to go within, to become enlightened, to be the highest form of yourself. Down and out has always had negative connotations. As above, so below is always hidden in plain sight if you know what you're looking for. The caduceus, Hermes Trismegistus, and the seven hermetic principles, polarities always coming together in balance and then being at odds, natural law. See as the serpents come together in separation, in unity, and at opposition.
The seven Hermetic principles. Mentalism, all is consciousness. Correspondence, as above, so below. Vibration, everything is in motion. Polarity, everything has an opposite. Rhythm, when the pendulum swings in favor of one, it swings in favor of its opposite. Cause and effect, when you do something, something happens. And the principle of gender, male and female, creating life on this realm. Here are the 12 universal laws if you want to know. The rough and perfect ashlar, the great work, the chisel away the things holding you back from becoming the highest version of yourself. Salt, mercury, quicksilver, sulfur, the beginning, the journey you take, and the end result. The goat head. A goat is an animal, but goat in all capital letters in Black's Law Dictionary means sewer. Capricorn is the sea goat. It represents death, the cube, six, salt, and lead. And it also represents the season of the dead. It's cold and nothing grows. And if you're curious what the all capital goats sewer represents, I have left these for you to pause and read at your own leisure. Now, I have taken entirely too much time on this Baphomet rant, and let's get back to the program.
That took longer than anticipated, but I hope somebody learned something that they've never heard before, or at least a different interpretation of it. But I want that to be in the back of your mind so you have a better understanding of what the intention behind the greater will, what it's doing right now. And what it's doing is being impatient. It's waited for this Empyrean, and it's time to intervene, and it does intervene, and it molds Marika from within. The Elden Ring's in her. It is complete control over her, and it splits her psyche into two. One half Radagon, one half Marika, both sharing autonomy over their shared body, this Baphomet trying to create this perfect being. A quick little side note that I picked up on. It says that Radagon always hated his red locks. Maybe during the war with the fire giants, maybe some of that red hair was taken and used as a catalyst when it started to create this Baphomet out of Marika. But anyways, there would be a consorting between these two halves, and Marika would give birth to the triplets. Triplets? I don't remember any triplets. I know, because these triplets were Melina, Mikola, and Melania. What? Hear me out. All three children would be Empyrean, but only Melina would be without influence from outer gods, a true successor to Marika to house the Elden Ring. And time would move forward, and Melina would become of Vicenarian age, and Marika would task her to burn the Erd Tree, because Marika wants to be free from this greater will's influence. Look what it's done to her over and over. And Marika would give Melina the rune of death, and it would power Melina's black flames with destined death. And Melina, her godskin apostles, black flame monks, and a band of Numen women that would later be known as the Black Knife Assassins, together they would advance towards the Forge of the Giants. But the Greater Will is aware of this high treason, and it would send Marika's protector, Malekith, to stop Melina. Malekith couldn't refuse this involuntary command. So Malekith fights Melina, and he defeats her, and she's burned in the flames of destined death. And this destroys Marika. She's devastated by the loss of her daughter, and she just punishes Malekith for it and makes him take on the rune of death for the sin of killing Melina. But he didn't have a choice in the matter, and it's a sad story. And Melina, from here on out, would be known as the Glomite Queen. She would be looked down on. She would be vilified. And all traces of her being Marika's daughter would be forgotten, erased from history. Kind of reminds you of the Nameless King from Dark Souls.
And after this, America went into a deep depression. She totally turned inwards, and when she did, Radagon took full autonomy over the shared body. And Radagon is completely loyal to the greater will, and he would look for another suitable consort in hopes of creating an Empyrean heir that didn't have influence from outer gods. And during his pursuit, he would stumble into a Caran War, where he would meet Renala on the battlefield, a champion fit for courtship. Radagon would atone at the Church of Vows to remove any potential indiscretion that might hinder an Empyrean not coming from this union. And he bathed in the celestial dew and gained absolution. He swore his love to Renala, now husband to the Caran Queen. Their union would produce 3 children, Radorn, Rykard, and Ronnie. Another success. Because of the 3 children, Ronnie would be an Empyrean without influence from outer gods. While he was there, he learned sorceries. He added them to his incantations that would later become the fundamentalist spells. You know, it was like another Baphomet. Intelligence and faith spells coming together in unison. Anyways, so Radagon would fulfill his duty to produce an Empyrean, and, well, he just abandoned Renala, and he left her the great rune of the unborn. And this was a slight towards America, because the greater will didn't have any more use for America's reproductive organ. It was pretty shady. Real kick in the teeth, if you ask me. Anyways, Renala was destroyed by this. She was forever distraught, clutching the amber egg.
The remaining children grew in stature, honing their specialities, but in time it became an indisputable fact among Rani, Rykard, Mikola, and Melania there was a problem with this golden order of Marika and the influence this greater will had over her. An elaborate scheme starts to take form to usurp the greater will. First, Mikola and Melania would leave the royal capital of Lindell and travel beyond the mountaintops of the giants and consecrated snowfields, where Mikola would create his Halictree to oppose the Herb Tree, a new home that welcomed all lost souls. Mikola would water the seed of the Halictree with his own blood, while Melania stood guard by his incapacitated body. Rykard traveled northwest to start his volcano manor as he sought out the god-devouring serpent for immortality and the power to overthrow the greater will.
Together,
Rani aligns herself with the Numen women that previously fought with Melina, since they were more likely to be persuaded to help. Concealed in the veils of their armor that silenced their movement, the Numen women snuck into Malekith's quarters while he slept and stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from him. A slab of rock engraved with the traces of the Rune of Death would be given to Rykard as a last resort, for him to challenge Malekith if Rani's plan were to fail. A ritual would begin, their blades imbued with the power of the Rune of Death. They crept upon the sleeping Godwyn, and the moment they slew Godwyn, Rani also would be slain, burned in the flames of destined death. This ritual killed Godwyn's soul, leaving his body alive. While Rani's body died, her soul would live on, transferred to a puppet to inhabit with the help of Celebes.
Goldwyn's body would be buried at the roots of the Earth Tree, where it would start to corrupt the cycles of life as death root was spread all over the lands between. So did those who walk in death. America would gain control long enough to task the blacksmith master Hugh with crafting a weapon that could slay a god. To force the hand of the greater will, America begins to shatter herself, weakening the body that houses the Elden Ring.
A struggle ensues between Radagon and Marika for control over their body. As Marika shatters, Radagon repairs. Marika, knowing that she's already out of favor with the Greater Will, she'd be punished and imprisoned, also removing Radagon from the oncoming conflict with her children so they could have a higher probability of success when they usurp the Greater Will.
Radon, being a Caran royal, would be well versed in reading the stars through his studies of astrology and gravity magics. Radon foresees Ronnie's future and sides with his father and the Greater Will. Radon leaves Redmane Castle to an open field, performs a feat unlike anything seen before, and holds back the stars in place with his gravity magics, preventing a shooting star that would eventually open a pathway into Necron's eternal city when it clashes into Limgrave.
Melania, knowing about Radon's interference, begins a voyage to Caelid to stop him, leaving Mikola vulnerable as he slumbers. A forgotten excommunicated brother Moog, seizing the opportunity to take Mikola's body while he's unprotected, with the intent to offer the Imperium to Moog's benefactor, the Formless Mother. So, he could create his own dynasty as consort to Mikola once the Greater Will's usurped? Yeah, right, that's just a husk. Mikola's already transcended beyond time and space, and has taken many forms, one being Saint Trina. Melania reaches Caelid with a clean wrought knights, and battles with Dawn and his red-maned soldiers. An unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, they fought for days. To end the conflict, the blade of Mikola, Melania the leaped onto the Conqueror of Stars, General Dawn's shoulder, and pierced him in the south, and whispered, "The battle's over, there'll be no victor." And Melania's scarlet flower blooms, and the blossom explodes, decimating the entirety of Caelid's region, permanently changing the habitat forever, stained in scarlet rot. Though this attack rendered both combatants immobilized for the time being, Melania's failed to stop Radon from holding back the stars.
And that's where we're at now. All plans that were in motion to supersede the Greater Will are stagnant. The Greater Will abandons all hope in the demigods. It's failed to create an Empyrean worthy to host the Elden Ring who is also loyal to its order. And right before the campaign starts, the Greater Will extends the guidance of grace back to the Tarnished, allowing them to return to the lands between, as it seeks those that may be worthy to become Elden Lord.
And eventually the player will meet Melina.
Melina's alive in spirit. She was burned in the flames of destined death,
and she'll take interest in the Tarnished once her spectral steed, Torrent, has chosen them. And Melina will make herself known and offer an accord to the Tarnished in hopes to fulfill this task given by her mother all those years ago to burn the Erd Tree. See, she was stopped. This was her purpose, and she feels like she's failed. Now she doesn't have a purpose, and this Tarnished can help her fulfill her promise. You know, she's questioning herself. What's her purpose? Why is she here? And you know, she fulfills her purpose. But anyways, she'll give the Tarnished this spectral steed whistle that houses Torrent, and this is an heirloom created by her brother Mikola, which she still communes with in this spiritual dreamlike reality, along with Ronnie, knowing that this Tarnished is the chosen beneficiary, would approach the Tarnished at night at the Church of Ella. And once she's confirmed that this is the Tarnished that rides Torrent, the one they've chosen, she'll give a spirit calling bell entrusted to her by Mikola. And it clicks, you know, Mikola is the benefactor of the Tarnished throughout the rest of the story. Or at the bare minimum,
Mikola saw something in the Tarnished in the very beginning of the game and gets the ball rolling. Mikola's behind the scenes pulling a lot of strings, and I guarantee in this DLC it's going to focus a lot about Mikola and what Mikola's been doing this whole time.
Every time I record this part, the volume goes down really low in the middle of it, and I don't know why, because PlayStation is garbage. I appreciate your time. You're the shit, Yurt. Leave a like if I won you over, or hit dislike if you think it's not good. You can leave a comment if you would. Just leave a comment. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that I was so good, and that Baphomet part you wasn't expecting, and you learned all kinds of stuff. Or you leave a comment saying I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about, and audio's terrible. But if you would, please do some interacting with this video so someone else can hear it. I hope people can hear it. I'm just a nobody. I got 361 subscribers, and hopefully that number is not lower than 361 when you're listening to this video. Oh, yeah. Here's your attention back without a scratch on it, as promised. Oh, those scars, they're in your head. No one's gonna see it. Until we meet again, be safe. Laters. Late.